Hey, this is Jamey with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanisms in what happens to be our new game, Pendulum. I do talk about a wide variety of games from other publishers on this channel, mostly games from other publishers, but every now and then when we have a new game out at Stonemaier Games, I like to talk about it as well. And there is a lot that I like about Pendulum, hence why I decided to publish it. In no particular order, I'll start with actually probably my favorite thing about the game, which are the stratagem cards. But they take a little explanation before I tell you what they are. And it ties into my other favorite mechanism, which is the timing game in the game, the time optimization specifically. So the core element of Pendulum is that you are placing workers on actions while a timer is running. You can also play an untimed version. It works great. I actually really like it for teaching the game, but you can also use the time version where you're placing workers on actions when there's no timer there. And then when you flip a timer from the corresponding section over here, those workers are locked in. And at any time while that timer is running, while that timer is there even, it could even stop running, you pay the cost and move the worker down here to gain the benefit. That's the core element of the game, but it ties into this whole element of optimization because there are three different timer lengths. There's a 45-second timer, a 3-minute timer, and a 2-minute timer. And so you're trying to decide, okay, how do I want to lock a worker into a longer action, an action that takes longer to get a better benefit, or do I want to use them for the shorter actions, particularly the 45-second actions, and use them more often, use those workers more and more often, but get much smaller benefits? And how can I time it so that I'm pulling off workers at the right time, that I can put them down on another action at the right time? It reminds me a ton of one of my favorite games, Tzolk'in, which is all about time optimization and deciding how long you want to leave a worker on an action. Same thing here in Pendulum. I love that. Now, meanwhile, this ties into my favorite mechanism I think about the game. While you're doing this, there are times in the game when it's not a particularly frenetic, frenzied game, even though the timers are running. And you'll actually find that there are times where you are kind of just sitting there waiting for your workers to be unlocked from actions. You've already taken the benefits, you're just waiting for them. And during that time, you have a hand of stratagem cards. For different characters, each of these are somewhat unique. Usually for the basic characters, 3 cards are the same, and one of the cards, the card related to how you get more workers, is different. But you have these hand of cards, and you can play them at any time. So anytime during this timed phase of the game. So you can play these, and one of the resources in the game helps you return them to your hand. So it's not really like a deck build. It's more like a hand management aspect of the game where you are managing, you're spending these cards whenever you want to get benefits. And when you're ready, if you focus on the blue resource in the game, you can pull back this entire hand of cards and use them again. It feels really good because it's like you're getting free stuff. And if you get those resources, you get more and more free stuff throughout the game, and you always have something to do. I love these stratagem cards, and that actually ties into my next favorite mechanism, which is the asymmetry, because these cards are slightly different for each character and even more different for the advanced characters. And in addition, with the characters, in addition to their hand of unique cards, they have different victory point track lengths. There are 4 different types of victory points in the game shown here. This track is always just 1 length. And there are different lengths in the game. So this character is not very good at popularity, I believe. And so they have to, or prestige, this is prestige. And so they really have to focus on that. They're really good at power, so they don't have to focus on that as much because you're trying to get into this parchment area. You're trying to move these victory point tokens over here to actually score points at the end of the game and to even be eligible to win the game. So I love how these tracks are different lengths. Even for these double-sided characters, they're different lengths. So you have different things to focus on throughout the game. And that Travis Jones, the designer, I think did a great job of balancing these really well as our blind playtesters. I had one other thing I wanted to mention for this game. Let's see. Oh, the last thing is the engine building. I really, really love engine building and progression in games. I like to feel more powerful late in the game than I do early in the game. The stratagem cards are one of the ways you can do that because there are times in the game where you can acquire new stratagem cards, and because you get to then play them for the rest of the game, that makes you feel more powerful. But the core element of engine building are the province cards. There are all these different province cards that you can acquire. And when you acquire a province card, you actually slide it under your player mat in an orientation of your choosing. So if I choose this province, if I've conquered this province, I'll choose one of the 4 orientations and I'll slide it under the corresponding icon. I'll use this character here. So if I slide it, let's see if I can line this up correctly, the yellow one. So if I slide it under here, it basically makes this yellow octagon icon better. From then on, whenever I gain this yellow octagon icon, which is all over the board, or one specific spot on the board and other places, instead of just gaining 2 coins, I also gain another coin. I gain 3 coins. So you're constantly getting, as you acquire these province cards, you are making these icons better. You're getting better at a certain duty or a certain task that you can take in this game. And I love that feeling of powering up and kind of specializing in certain things in the game that other players are doing completely differently. I love these province cards for engine building. Yeah, I think that's it. Those are my favorite mechanisms in Pendulum. I really love what the designer Travis did with this game, and I really actually like that you can play it timed or untimed. There's a whole mat here that you can use to play it untimed if you don't want to learn the game with the timers, which I actually wouldn't recommend. We don't recommend that in the rulebook. That we recommend that you play at least one round of the game with the untimed version. Yeah, those are my favorite mechanisms. If these remind you of any mechanisms in another game that you want to talk about here, I mentioned Tzolk'in, but there are plenty of other games that use engine building and hand management in ways that are different. But if you think of something similar, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Or if you have a different favorite mechanism in Pendulum, or just one that you want to share in the comments below, I'd love to hear about that as well. Thanks.